All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you for joining us for bringing Ingenuity back to engineering. We're going to be talking about ShipIt Days and what they are, how to do them, why they're beneficial to you and your organization. Real quickly, how many people have heard of a ShipIt Day before? So, a little bit. How many people have participated in one before? So just a few. So that's awesome. We're really excited to share this with you, and we hope you can take this back to your organizations. Before we get into it, we'll start with who we are. My name is Nick Tuck. I'm a software gardener at ProxyBid. I've been doing web development, building web enterprise systems for over 10 years. I worked in a lot of different environments, including government contracting for the Air Force. I've done commercial, industrial software. I've helped a few startups, and now I'm at a live auction product company named ProxyBid. About 7 years ago, I got really big into Agile development. I became a certified Scrum Master and then later a certified Scrum Professional. And I helped start the Agile for Defense meetup in the Omaha, Nebraska area.
And I'm Kathy Andersen. I'm a Scrum Master at Huddle. There I work on their billing management system. Just before that, I worked at Aperture with Nick. That's how we met and started thinking about these things. And there I was a Scrum Master on a restaurant software company I'll talk a little bit more about later as a case study. And previous to that, I was a business analyst and quality assurance analyst. I like to stay involved as well. I got to help mentor the Lincoln Startup Accelerator companies last year in Scrum practices, which was really cool. And I'm one of the organizers with Agile Lincoln, which we have a booth outside, and we do all kinds of programming, and we'd love to hear input on what kinds of Agile topics you'd like to hear about. So come stop by the booth. So these days, we are left feeling very innovation challenged. There's a lot of talk of companies needing to innovate, lots of pressure to be innovative, find ways to get creative and get new solutions. But we know that this is coming. The rate of technological change. We have this paraphrase from Jack Welch, the former CEO of GE. The 21st century will require companies to work very differently. So he was the CEO from 1981 to 2001. And like I said, very prescient. He knew that fragmented cultures do not work. That's not what's going to propel business forward. He knew that silos are how we get stuck in our processes and where we are left behind in where we need to go to innovate. So continuing that quote, he said that the speed of globalization and technological innovation in the 21st century will require companies to work very differently, necessitating shorter decision cycles, more employee engagement, and stronger collaboration than had previously been required to compete. And to me, this sounds fantastic. This is a vision I'd love to live by. But we see things like this. Innovation is left about as being a big buzzword right now, and you've got this chart of invention, the use of that as a search term versus innovation. What the heck happened over there? Where are we going wrong? You've also got this. This is a McKinsey study of top global execs and what they say, innovation leaders say they do right. Aspire, choose, discover, evolve, accelerate, scale, extend, and mobilize. Like, what do these even mean? How are they going to help us be innovative? You get quotes like this: innovation demands sweeping, broad adjustments, different paradigms, and different approaches. Innovation demands radical and immediate rethink of the status quo, and demands big changes, okay? And you also see these kinds of pictures. Execs sitting around, VPs making decisions about what the company's going to do next, what the next big idea is, and everything being in the realm of the VP, that person at the company who has that sphere of control. Is this what innovation looks like either? I think so. Innovation labs and frameworks. I have a whole list of gimmicks here. Innovation consultants, entrepreneurs, beanbag chairs. Companies start doing these, and they say, if we do these little things, we will start having innovative culture. But we don't think that that's all there is to innovation.
As people start to adopt these, we don't see innovation being successful in the ways I think everyone hoped for. And I wanted to touch on a couple of reasons why innovation tends to fail. The two we want to touch on is humans resist change, and we can't conjure miraculous solutions. So the first one, humans resist change. We like our routines. Anything that's going to mess with our routines, we fight back innately. Right? Whenever something a big change starts to come up, our brain fires these red flags, pushing back, saying, I don't want to do it. I want you to think about the last big change your company announced, whatever it was. Maybe your CEO said, we're going to Agile, everyone's doing Scrum. Or your tech lead said, we're going to pair program on every ticket. Or you have to have 100% unit code coverage. Whatever it was, think of that big change that was announced. Anyone get that tightening in their stomach, that fear, like I don't want to do it, even if it's a good idea? We don't naturally want to have these big changes in our lives. Now, there are times where we can have sheer determination and push through and make a big change stick, but those are exceptions and not the rule. I think the thousands of unused gym memberships every year kind of showcase those exceptions. So that's the first one, is we resist these changes. And the second one is we can't conjure miraculous solutions. When we're demanding these big changes, we're demanding brilliance of our people. We're demanding that on our own timeline they become inspired and creative and solve all of our problems right then and there. This actually has the adverse effect. When we ask for these huge changes, we're actually having people's brains divert mental resources away from creativity and innovative thinking and toward fight or flight. They immediately start to push back and consider, do I want to do this? Do I want to run away? Do I want to fight back on it? And so we're actually not setting our people up for success to have creative thinking when we're demanding these brilliant and big changes. Robert Maurer says this is akin to asking the captain of a sinking ship to explain the second law of thermodynamics. He may or may not be able to do that, but while the ship is sinking, you're not setting them up for success at all. And that's what we're doing, we're demanding these big changes. So the big takeaway from that is we can't schedule a big innovation. We can't put it on a backlog. You can't set a deadline for innovation to happen. But there's a different approach to innovation that we want to suggest. We call it the Kaizen alternative. How many people have heard of Kaizen before? Cool, so a little less than half. This is one book of many on Kaizen called The Spirit of Kaizen by Robert Maurer. I like this book. But what Kaizen stands for is, literally translated, means good change. And what it means is if we take continuous small steps, continuous small improvements, they can lead to big innovations. And that's what this whole book and what the concept of Kaizen is about. It's about bypassing that resistance to change that we all have. So if I were to ask someone to stop smoking cold turkey, they're going to fight back and that's not going to happen. But if I ask you to break one cigarette in half every 2 weeks and throw that away, that's not going to get a lot of resistance. You could probably do that. And then you build on that, and you throw a cigarette away every 2 weeks. And you slowly build on that until you actually have real big change in someone's life. A corporate example I want to share with you is UPS. There was a UPS driver that thought, maybe we're wasting a lot of time and gas idling at left-hand turns at stoplights. So they decided to eliminate one of those left-hand turns on their route, just one. And then a few weeks later, another one, and then another one, until they started to see real change, real time savings, real saving on gas. And then another driver started to copy that, and then another driver. And over time, UPS eventually built an entire GPS system around eliminating left-hand turns. This resulted in saving millions of gallons of fuel each year and avoiding emissions of over 20,000 passenger cars. That's a huge change. That's an innovative change. But it didn't come from demanding it. It came from just someone taking a small step over time and improving that. So when we look at innovation, we see it as ingenuity plus Kaizen. That using creativity, cleverness, originality, or inventiveness to solve problems with a focus on small, continuous change. And so what we want to do is figure out how can we enable Kaizen and this approach in our organizations.
And the why for this talk is that way that we can do that. So the better way that we're going to propose to you in the form of ShipIt Days, it's characterized by being owned by the people closest to the work. This is not where we have only the engineers in this little corner are doing agile and that's the only part of the process. No, we're getting the people who have the hands-on case in building the work. They're the ones who are owning it. It looks like real freedom to take risks. Real freedom means it's actually supported by the organization. Risks are talked about, accepted, etc. And it also looks like the organization intentionally getting out of the way, letting there be room for new ideas, etc. So that's our why. Our goal for this presentation is that you will come out of this talk with a powerful concept of ShipIt Days, get you on your own paths of innovation. We'll talk about that a little bit. And in that way, you can start putting ingenuity back into engineering. So I'll let Nick go for what's a ShipIt Day.
So let's just start out. What is a ShipIt Day? What the heck is it that we're talking about? At its core, ShipIt Day is really, really simple. Simple idea. You take 24 hours, or you take one day, and allow people to build something, anything they want, and they share that with their team and the rest of the organization. That's all a ShipIt Day really is. There's a lot of flavors you can do on top of it, a lot of ways you can make that your own, but it's that simple. Take one day. This could be a 24-hour period, like a hackathon. This could be an 8-hour workday. however you want to use it, take a day, and let the teams, individuals, build anything they want. And I'll get back to that in a second. And then they share it. They do like a 3-minute talk showing what they accomplished, what they tried to do, what they failed at, what they learned. But they share whatever they did that day with everyone else. So when we say build something, we mean anything, really anything benefiting your project, your company, or yourself. Those are the only rules that we have on ShipIt Day. As long as it benefits your project, your company, or yourself, you can do it on a ShipIt Day. And that's a pretty broad spectrum. We'll give you a handful of examples so you can start thinking about it. You can squash bugs on a ShipIt Day. There's a lot of bugs in our system, and they're really hard to get prioritized amongst everything else. The ones that drive you crazy, the ones that you think drive everyone else crazy, you can fix those on a ShipIt Day. Or you can create training videos on a ShipIt Day. Some of us have pretty awful user manuals that have been built up over the years. You can take the day to build training videos, show some of the cool features of your products that maybe your users don't know or aren't familiar with. You do product innovations, and that's the big one that we kick this off with. That's what gets me really excited. There's people on our teams with crazy innovative ideas that never have the opportunity to try them. ShipIt Day gives them that opportunity to see if they're worthwhile, to see what they can do with it. You can learn something on a ShipIt Day. That benefits you, that benefits your project. You can take the time to learn maybe the best IDE out there, which is IntelliJ if you were wondering. And you can learn how to use that on a ShipIt Day. You can integrate that with your project. As long as you share what you learned and what resources you used at the end of it. You can do testing innovations. We have testing frameworks and tools that have been set up for how many years? Are they still effective? When do we take a step back and identify if there's a better way to be effective in our testing? You can do that on ShipIt Day. Or you can try programming. It's not just for developers. Anyone should be participating in ShipIt Day, and if you want to squash your bugs or add an improvement to the system, you can learn to program and help the team out that way too. So really anything on ShipIt Day. It's kind of like this hackathon, lightning talk, professional development day all rolled into one. And we want to show you a little bit of what ShipIt Day looks like, and this is a video by Atlassian on how they do their ShipIt Days. See if I can get this loud enough for you guys.
It started as a hackathon. Some of our engineers, we had a very small number. We could all fit around a table. We went to each person's computer to watch the demos.
These days, thousands of people in all our offices around the world participate. The grand finals are so live now that they get live streamed into different rooms because we can't all fit into one room.
Anyone for the chocolate? Get your own parts up the energy of life for all your ideas. Salt and sugar, prominently. I think the most important part of ShipIt for me is we don't take ourselves too seriously. That's the way that I think collaboration and innovation should be.
It's more complex than we initially thought.
I learned to not be too ambitious in all the things that you can think you can build in 24 hours.
Don't look at the stack trays. That means bad things have happened.
A lot of us got into programming because we fell in love with that roller coaster ride of highs and lows when your code goes from being almost ready to being completely broken in a matter of seconds. And I guess ShipIt lets us relive a little bit of that.
We brought in something, at the last minute.
And it should kind of vanish after 30 seconds. It shouldn't get a lot nicer. Yeah, no, it's much nicer. Here's the shadows. We need some sleep now.
So it's a little bit of what ShipIt Day can look like.
So it's not just about that one day or that 8 hours that your team is using. The benefits of ShipIt Day carry on, and that's why we think that this is such a formative thing and why we wanted to talk about it today. I'm going to go through a couple of the benefits, one of them being the morale boost. Morale, you can't beat it into people. ShipIt Days are fantastic because you get that excitement and energy, which you saw a little bit of in the video. This is outside of the norm. This is a breath of fresh air for everyone participating. Really great. You can look forward to this day before it comes, and then after it is done, it still carries with you into the rest of the sprint or the normal workday. It's also great for job satisfaction. When Nick shared some of those ideas of what you can do during a ShipIt Day, how often has it been there's this thing you just want to work on, but you can't because it doesn't fit in the current project, etc. This is a great place to say, oh man, I'm really happy with the thing I got to do today and what I get to do in my job. Another benefit, ShipIt Days can be great for motivation. We've got the book Drive by Daniel Pink up here, and Drive is fantastic. He offers a framework for motivation which goes into autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Anybody read Drive in the room? A couple of people Nice. Excellent book. So when we're thinking about autonomy with respect to ShipIt Days, they're fantastic for being a self-directed activity. You have to think ahead about what you're going to do and set yourself up for that day. You get to really live that autonomy. It also gives you great chances to learn. You can do specifically the professional development activities Nick mentioned. You can just have time where you know you can fail, and that's okay. That's great for mastery, where you can work on your craft, work on honing those skills. And lastly, ship it. The point is to ship something in that 24-hour period, and being able to actually deliver on ideas like that can be great for your sense of purpose, contributing to motivation. The next benefit I want to touch on is the ShipIt Days' great impact on fostering collaboration in your organization. So ShipIt Day is awesome. As you saw in the video, you can have people from different departments working together. What if somebody from marketing has a great idea and they pitch an idea, maybe you need some development talent to work on it. You get to have that connection that spans departments during that day. It's also a great place for improving across the company. When you have those new connections, you have people working together, everybody gets the opportunity to say, we're going to improve on this thing, or we're going to improve what we know about the skill in that way. And you can see that being widespread throughout the company, unless you foster that sense of collaboration and learning company-wide. And lastly, it really helps with new ways of working together with coworkers you might not see every day. You learn different ways of, this department attacks a problem this way. Maybe I can take something of that back to my day job. The next benefit, we've talked about ingenuity, we've talked about creative problem solving and how this is small steps getting you there. ShipIt Days are awesome for exercising that creative problem solving muscle. This is a day where you picked the idea. You're going to run into roadblocks. You're going to have to overcome them and figure out new ways of doing things. It's also great for introducing some volatility and entropy into your team. What I mean by that is, volatility. This is a short, focused time that you have to run fast. And getting practice in operating in that way can make you think differently about the rest of your day job. It's also entropy. You get a chance to say, well, we already do this thing this way, but I'm going to try a new technology. I'm going to try implementing it in a different place. So you get some entropy, you get some excitement there. And lastly, it's wonderful for enlisting your team's ingenuity in encouraging that experimentation. If you are shipping in the short period of time, it's much more encouraging to say, we are going to try this out, we're going to experiment. Maybe you try out some new prototyping techniques you learned about from Brian's talk. Maybe you go and access a new set of users. It's fantastic for, like I said, exercising those muscles, introducing some more fresh energy to your team. So I went through those pretty quickly. Morale, creativity, excitement, collaboration, work satisfaction, and all of these are mutually reinforcing, and you see some combined benefits. The ingenuity we were just talking about, that dynamism can be there with every member of your team. A bias towards action. If you are shipping like this, if you are having to figure things out, it can lead to that bias towards action that you can use for the rest of your sprint work, the stories you're taking on. And lastly, it can be great for encouraging your team's passion about what they're working on. That's both the technologies and the products you're producing, maybe the users that you're working with that you got another chance to work with on this ShipIt Day. In conclusion on this benefits side, this is a quote from The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. It's talking about sharpen the saw of the culture you strive for. So just hammering it home, you have to take that time to stop. The story is about a lumberjack who's sawing a tree, and somebody comes up to him and says, your blade is dull. You're never going to get anywhere sharpening this tree. Why don't you cutting down this tree. Why don't you stop and sharpen the saw? And he says, no, way too busy. I don't have time for that. ShipIt Day is a way to take that time, sharpen the saw, and you'll see those benefits go into everything else you do.
Cool. So next we want to touch on some nitty-gritty mechanics of how ShipIt Day could actually work. Now, this isn't going to say how you have to do ShipIt Day or even how you should do ShipIt Day. This is going to be just one example of how I've done it in the past. And we're going to do this in form of a case study of a place I used to work at when I worked at the Air Force Weather Agency as a contractor. Now there's some people here from there, so they can maybe call me out on my embellishments, but that's okay. Most of you won't know. This was a project called the Air Force Weather Web Services. It was supporting worldwide weather for Air Force flights around the world. It was a modernization and cutting-edge project. We were replacing a lot of old products that have been around for a long time. It ingested terabytes of data every day, and there was over 30 developers on these projects across 4 Scrum teams. By the time I left, we had done ShipIt Days for a little over 2 years. So this is what I want to cover with you is how we came up with our schedule and our ideas, and then how did we actually execute, share, and decide next steps for our ShipIt Days. So for the schedule, we did ShipIt Days once every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks we took a day to do ShipIt Day. Now I know some of you in here are having that gut-wrenching feeling of a big change, and that sounds really nervous. But I promise you, what I hope to show you at the end of this and how I feel about it is absolutely worth the value, and we probably could have done it even more. So at the end of every 2-week sprint, we had 1 day devoted to ShipIt Day. Tuesdays was our sprint ending with our retrospective. All day Wednesday was we did ShipIt Day and nothing else. Thursday morning we did our ShipIt demo where we shared with the rest of our team. And the rest of Thursday was the regular sprint review and sprint planning to start the next sprint. So that was kind of the schedule we did for ShipIt Days. How do we generate ideas? This was actually really simple. We just created a wiki page, and any idea you had, you threw on the wiki page. Any bugs you thought you wanted to fix, any neat ideas you had, any cool designs, cool technologies, things you wanted to learn, whatever it was, you just threw it on this wiki page. Now the key is, product owners and stakeholders don't decide what you get to do on the ShipIt Day. They can generate excitement, they can bring ideas, they can do whatever they like except tell you what to do. This is not for them to tell you what to do. This is for you to pick, as long as it benefits your project, your company, or yourself. So that was it. We just had a random page of ideas that anyone could add to. Ultimately, though, when we ran at ShipIt Day, this is what it looked like. We still had a daily scrum. So we met in the morning and said, what do you plan on doing on ShipIt Day? Now, sometimes this would lead to allow us to create teams. I had a lot of people say they were going to do something on ShipIt Day, and when it got to a different team member and they said what they were going to do, that original person was like, I'm not going to do my idea. I'm going to help you. That's a way better and cooler idea. So you allow people to learn what they're going to do as well as create teams. Then we focused. All day ShipIt Day is all we did. We had a product owner that said, I don't want you working on the sprints. I don't want you catching up on emails. I don't want you to do security training. He's asked us to put our heads down, be creative, be experimental, take the risks, try to actually leverage the ideas that we're pitching here for ShipIt Day. Because otherwise, we're just wasting time on all the other tedious stuff that normally comes with the job. Ultimately, though, try to get something done. Now, there'll be ShipIt Days you get more done than you expected. There'll be ShipIt Days you get less done than you expected. That comes with the territory. That's okay. But take the last maybe half hour of the day and try to wrap up whatever it was. If you didn't get it done, identify what lessons learned you have. What remains? What do you want to do next time? If you did get something done, prepare to show it to the rest of the team. The next morning, we did the ShipIt demo. This was really simple. We just did a 30-minute meeting with the team and the product owner, and we just went around the room. We just spent 3 minutes showcasing what you did. Maybe it's a demo of what you got done. Maybe it's a link to the peer review. Maybe it's just the resources that you compiled by learning about IntelliJ, which if you haven't done, you should learn about IntelliJ. And so, whatever it was, we just went around the room and showed everyone, right? That's all it was for us. Now, we made our results discoverable, so we had a wiki page of links to all this stuff so that we could find it later as well as other teams could see what we did on ShipIt Day. But ultimately, we just went around the room and kind of celebrated what everyone did, right? This is a fun thing. Even if they failed, you should celebrate the fact that people took risks, that they tried to take on more than they could chew, that they really put themselves out there and did something new. The last steps is to decide next steps. And this is really what's most important that I think a lot of people miss. We need to allow for change. We don't want to do all this and allow people to take steps on their ideas without incorporating it into our products or processes or whatever it is. So this means our product owners, our team members, our project owners, our project management, they have to be okay with allowing the roadmap to change, allowing us to take in work we didn't expect to take in. What we had was a product owner that would save capacity in every backlog. Every sprint backlog, you'd save just a little bit of space in case something cool and interesting came in on a ShipIt Day. So we would have the time to peer review it, to test it, to maybe clean up the UI a little bit, because what comes out of ShipIt Day isn't always pretty. Generally, it's not pretty. But there's only so much you can get done in a day. He would save a little bit of time so we could clean that up and get it into the product now versus jumping through a bunch of hoops and hoping to get it in months. So we need to allow for change. Ultimately, we want to leverage that innovation, that ingenuity and Kaizen, as soon as we do take those steps. So that was kind of the process we took. Now I wanted to end the case study with some examples, some success stories I had, and I'm going to share 3 of them with you. Now I'm only sharing 3 because Kathy said she didn't stop me at 3. I'm going to be talking all day. I don't know what's wrong with that, but I'm only going to share 3. So the first one is a visual test suite across teams. We had a team that produced thousands and thousands of weather imagery products that looked something similar to this. These imagery products are very, very hard to automatically test to make sure that they look right. I worked on this for years. I still don't know what look right means. I don't know what those are. But it took days to test all these products, which ultimately meant they weren't really being fully tested. We had a team on ShipIt Day decide that they might try to automatically test this with some image comparison tools and stuff like that. And within the ShipIt Day, they got these products fully tested, and anything that was concerning, they put them side by side so a subject matter expert could look at them and identify if they were actually wrong or just different. That took this process down from days to a matter of hours, which meant it was fully being tested for the first time, and not only increasing productivity, but increasing the quality that we were producing. Because a team decided to do this on a ShipIt Day. That's what they wanted to do. The second one was a system status Chrome extension. We had a developer go to Google I/O and learn that he could create a Chrome extension really easily with the web tools he already knew. Right? And so he decided, I want to build a Chrome extension. That was his goal. And so he did. He built one. He didn't build Bitmoji. I just think my Bitmoji is really cool, so I try to put them in these. But he built a Chrome extension like this that took system status emails that we all have. The emails that say, hey, your system's down, your system's up, your system's kind of down, but I forgot what state it's in, I'd really like you to check on it. Hey, something about your system. Or those emails that we all ignore. He put that in a Chrome extension that would turn yellow, red, or green. And it was in every developer's Chrome. And we could just see it right in our faces all day long. And it led to us identifying problems before we got calls. And not only did that, it led to us identifying trends of how certain systems always went down at the certain times of the day. It was really interesting. And we could identify the root cause of that and eliminate calls. All because we had a developer want to build a Chrome extension. That was his goal. And he decided to leverage that at work and benefit the products, the company, all the users. That's super exciting to me. And the last one I want to share with you is a user experience game changer. This is what the Air Force Weather Web Services looked like at one time. Maybe it's different now.
Not much.
Okay, good. And so this UI, it's a complex dynamic mapping system. And the UI was really hard to get right. In fact, we were ordered multiple times to rewrite the whole UI. And so it wasn't intuitive, there was lots of wizards, and we just never got the UI right, even though they demanded that we innovate, that we make it intuitive, and we just couldn't get it right. In 2013, though, something changed. This is what Google Maps used to look like in 2013, if you can kind of remember. It had the sidebar and the search, and just, it's a little bit different. And at Google I/O 2013, they announced Google Maps Beta, which, long and behold, looks like Google Maps today. And there's a lot that came with this. There's a universal search that reacted to what kind of things you were searching for. The map reacted to where you were at compared to what you were searching for. There was a lot that came with this that energized the team, and it was really exciting when it came to mapping user interfaces. And within a week, the team decided that's what some of them were going to do on a ShipIt Day. So within the week, they had something similar to this. With the universal search, didn't search all the products, but a handful of the products that you could interact with and configure right there from the search and add that to your map. This was what was done within a week of Google I/O announcing their huge change. We were able to incorporate that into our product. When they demoed that to the rest of the team, everyone was ecstatic and said, we're all working on that in the next ShipIt Day. That's what they wanted to do. When they demoed this to the organization at the sprint demo, stakeholders' jaws dropped. They decided they would clear the roadmap and add more of this work into the actual roadmap, because for the first time, we started to get this right. And this is what we started to go down. You can see a lot of similarities of what Google Maps announced with where we went. This wasn't just like a huge spark of innovation that someone on the team had. There was a lot of luck, a lot of the opportunity from ShipIt Day to try things out and see if it worked. And it did. This is what I get excited about from ShipIt Days. Because the team was able to do what they wanted to do to help the product and help the business achieve what they wanted, not on their schedule, but when opportunity struck. This was really, really cool.
We have another case study from my experience, and kind of similar. A couple people in the room have worked on decision logic, so you can call out the embellishments as well. But I'm going to translate it into some pitfalls to avoid. So this is decision logic, a little bit about the company. Has about 28 employees at any given point in time. It's over 20 years old. We have 1,200 plus deployments to different restaurant units, supporting all different kinds of customers. Yet over 20 years old. Very much a legacy application we're working with here, trying to get that to the new age. And hundreds of integrations. We had to integrate with vendors, et cetera, to provide those restaurants what they needed. So we had to support those. And, we process a lot of stuff, lots of data, over $9 billion in sales. So the first pitfall that we saw and experienced, life getting in the way. There's the we're too busy paradox. You finish your sprint, or it comes to Tuesday, and you still have this big thing that's not done, or you're getting a lot of pressure to deliver on, and you want to leave that over to ShipIt Day. We're too busy. Fires coming up. We supported a lot of customers, over 1,200 restaurants that depended on us to keep their system up, etc. We saw that there were some not code red things that would push over into ShipIt Days, and then rescheduling. These things would happen, or something else would come up, and people would argue for rescheduling this day. However, trying to reschedule it is difficult if you have a bunch of stakeholders or a team that you're scheduling for, and oftentimes it would fall through, and we just wouldn't be able to have that ShipIt Day. To conquer these, I would say schedule it, guard it, make sure that you can set your team up to address these things, know about priority of fires that might come up and be able to address them appropriately. Kill that we're too busy paradox, really guard this time so that you can do it regularly. The second pitfall we ran into is, yes, we talked a lot about breaking down silos. However, it's really tricky. ShipIt Day should be for the whole company. This takes some creative diplomacy. This takes some imagination to really engage people who might not be on the engineering team, talking to them about ways they can get involved, getting them excited to pitch their ideas. We had all of those problems. Second, different job roles, what their ShipIt Day looks like will be different, and that's okay. You also want them to get the focus of the entire day. You want that collaboration to be there, but it might be that you have to work with them on that, like I mentioned. So really here to conquer these pitfalls, we pushed for involvement, we got creative. It's really in the team's court to own this ShipIt Day and make sure that happens so that you can break down the silos. Collaboration doesn't just happen. Remember this key point, and we'll come back to it at the end too. The third pitfall is that we ran into this concept of good versus bad ShipIt Day ideas. We said that anything benefiting a project, company, or self. However, you can fall into this trap like we did, where some ideas are more equal than others. We had a wiki page of ideas, but the team could kind of get the sense from stakeholders, etc., of which ideas they thought were good or which ideas they were bad. And that was really too bad because they might not have known anything about that new technology that somebody wanted to investigate. They might not have realized that making a small shift in this part of the application could have big ramifications somewhere else. We also saw, Nick mentioned, sure, it's not a place where you can delegate and you can say, you're going to work on this during ShipIt Day. That will come up. We saw pet projects where the product owner would say something like, you're really excited about this, right? So you're going to work on it in ShipIt Day. Or they'd say something like, I really love this, I think you should work on this. That's fine. They can do a pitch. But when you get into those pet projects, it defeats the purpose. It defeats where you need to go. And you also really need to be honest about flops. During that demo period, if it turns out that you bit off more than you can chew, our team did that once in a while. We didn't scope it properly. They didn't get to deliver anything. Instead of being embarrassed or nervous about it, it's important to be honest about it so that the team can learn from how that idea was executed, how it was scoped, and can do it differently the next time. So preserve the sanctity of choice. It doesn't matter if it's an idea that you think is good or bad. It's not about managers' pet projects, and you need to allow people to choose things that might fail. The fourth pitfall we ran into, thinking that ShipIt Day was like a free lunch. ShipIt Day, in these hackathons, we would advocate that working late is still not sustainable. We heard some anti-patterns such as, a stakeholder saying, oh great, it's a ShipIt Day, you can work late on it because you really want to get it done. That's an anti-pattern, not great. That's not where you want your motivation to go. Another pitfall, motivation is a muse, not a plumber. You might have a day where you set yourself up great for the ShipIt Day. Everything's going awesome. You're going to have a great day. You're going to be able to execute on this. But we also have bad days. You can see it where you thought you were going to work on something and then it didn't pan out, and that's okay. You need to not penalize for that. It's just a fact of life. You will get really motivated some days. Some days it'll be like a normal work day. And in that vein, a ShipIt Day is not a reward that can be given and taken away. It's still real work, and it needs to be treated like that. Sometimes we saw people falling into the trap of saying, if we reach this milestone, we will hold our ShipIt Day. No. It's sharpening the saw. It's having that ShipIt Day helps you to reach your future milestones. This isn't a thing that should be horse traded as a reward that you can take and give away. So remember Friedman, there's no such thing as a free lunch. This is not a concept like that you can use. The last pitfall I want to talk about, some things that we ran into, is where the projects that we did coming out of ShipIt Day would upend the roadmap. So successful projects can really be a hassle. Nick had a good experience where the success was so good that the product owner wanted to build space into the next sprint. That's fantastic. However, doing that rearranging, having something that you need to completely change your strategy, that can be changed, that can make people uncomfortable. But also the unsuccessful projects can be a hassle. Let's say you try something that a stakeholder had in mind, and it was a hypothesis that you definitely disproved. You said, this isn't going to work, this isn't going to be great for our users, or it's not technically feasible. That might be something that they had planned, and they'll have to change course and think a different way. Also uncomfortable. So be ready for ups and downs with this ShipIt Day, not just with your immediate engineering team. Roadmaps can and should change. If you're taking on this ShipIt Day tactic, really be prepared for that, embrace that as part of it. So 3 success stories from the decision logic side. Oh, I wanted to pause. This is a shield that somebody in the audience actually threw together in like 5 minutes, and it stuck around for a long time, as things do. The first one I want to talk about is the iOS app that came out of ShipIt Day. Decision Logic had an Android app for a long time. Our customers were using it, but customers wanted an iOS version. They kept asking it for it. We just couldn't prioritize it on the roadmap. We didn't quite know exactly what it entailed to release the iOS version. But early on in our pursuit of ShipIt Days, one of our engineers said, I know a little bit about this. I'm going to take on making an iOS version of our mobile app. And he did, and was able to get that out to users, and it was fantastically received, and something really good for the company out of ShipIt Day. The next one was a customer management tool suite called Mate. You can see Mate here. The acronym stands for the most awesome tool ever. Yes, and there's a reason. So Decision Logic, like I said, we are a product company supporting a lot of customers. They call in. We need to be able to service their needs. We need to be able to quickly help them. We need to be able to, reprocess, look at their information, update their sales numbers. And we didn't have a centralized place to do that before. Before it was maybe this tool over here. Maybe the process was submit a ticket, and somebody in ops would get to it eventually. Very painful for the people supporting these customers and for our engineering team. We made this tool suite where the tools we had could live, where future tools could live, but not only in what it got the company was it awesome, it also became our sandbox for moving to React. So this was the place where we could play around with prototyping, could train up in React, etc. very, very much a force multiplier for the company in that way. And the last one I want to talk about is a tool called Custom Reports. And this was another thing on our roadmap that the company wasn't quite sure how to attack. We knew that it was important for our competitive landscape that we have a way to report dynamically, do that ad hoc reporting, and weren't quite sure how to do it, weren't sure how to get all the information from the reports across the software system into one place for our users. So one of our engineers got really excited about this and started experimenting. And he stood up a first version, and from there it really grew and became another ShipIt Day project that people rallied around. This is a couple versions later. You have this collapsible editor. You have export data. The engineers knew from all of our interactions with customers that it needed to be really easy to export the data that they were looking at and playing with. We worked on sharing and those more visualizations. And every time that the team could work on it during ShipIt Day, they got more validation and more feedback. And this got released to production, was very popular with our clients, and means that the company can compete with the other big dogs in the industry. So great success for Decision Logic coming out of ShipIt Day.
So hopefully now you understand what ShipIt Day is, you understand how it can be used, some of the benefits, and maybe you want to bring it back to your organization. That's a little tricky. So we don't have a cookie cutter step to say this is how you can do it, but we want to offer some tips in how you can talk about these things and bring that back to your organization. So we'll talk about a Kaizen approach to doing that, how you can come prepared to some of those conversations, as well as how to talk about motivation and morale. Now, if all of you went back and said, what we should do is take a day off every 2 weeks and do ShipIt Day, there's going to be a lot of resistance to change. So let's not do that. We want to find a way to bypass that resistance to big change that all of your management is going to feel, that the company is going to feel. So whatever that means to your organization is what you need to start to think about. One way you could do that is to just start generating excitement. When we did this at the Air Force Weather Agency, it was after talking about it for months, if not longer, of what it could be, how we could use it, what it might look like, what ideas could you bring to it. So just start to generate excitement and talk to people about the idea. And when you finally get to that point of asking to try it, literally ask to try it. Don't ask, can we do ShipIt Days here? What does that process look like? Ask, can we trial ShipIt Day and have a no strings attached evaluation to see if it'll work for us. Try to put little restrictions on it. Don't try to say, if we accomplish this much stuff, we will continue to do it. Just ask, can we try it? And after a few times, see if it works. Just openly evaluate it. But do try to ask for 3. Because the first time you do anything, you're going to suck at it. Second time, you're going to start to feel it out. And the third time, you get an honest opportunity to see if this might work at your organization.
And we want you to come prepared. So here's some advice. ShipIt Day, it might be a new concept for the team you're talking to the stakeholders you're talking to. Narrate what it could look like. Paint a picture. Point to successes of other popular companies. We're going to provide some in the next slide. Talk about what benefits you've seen there. Feel free to reach out to us for more information on how we did things. And second, with that narration, bring that list of ideas. Nick mentioned you can throw it on a wiki page, whatever. What might be worked on in a ShipIt Day. When we say crowdsource, go to your team, get the ideas directly from your team so it'll be meaningful, and talk about what those ideas will bring to the company. Using that to paint that picture of how it'll work and what the benefit will be. So here are some of the examples. We played the video from Atlassian. It used to be called FedEx Days because you had to ship something in 24 hours. They were gently asked to stop using that term, so they did. And they happen quarterly. You've seen Jira Service Desk, the Confluence WYSIWYG, the Atlassian Marketplace come out of there. If you know anything about Atlassian, the Service Desk and the Marketplace have been huge for that company. Google's 20% time, famous example. When we were digging into this, we learned more about what came out of this time. It was very surprising. Gmail, Google Talk, AdSense, huge part of Google's revenue now, and Google Earth. These are fantastic. And then probably one of the oldest examples is 3M's 15% rule, where, of course, you get the famous Post-it note and painter's tape.
And the last tip we wanted to offer is a little bit about how to talk about motivation and morale. When you bring up ShipIt Days and you say people are going to be excited, a lot of folks can easily look at that as go, yeah, it's a free day. Of course they're going to be excited. There's a lot more that goes into motivation than just a free day, and so we want to offer a couple of those. Kathy talked about drive earlier. That defines motivation as autonomy, mastery, and purpose. You can see ShipIt Day directly attributing to autonomy. They get the opportunity to do whatever they want. Mastery, if they choose to learn something and build up expertise in something, they can build that mastery. Or purpose, if they decide to work on what they think is valuable to the organization, to their users, they can gain it. So ShipIt Day is not just a free day, it's very purposeful. And it starts to check that box off on a lot of other models. This is a different model for motivation called perform. And it starts to achieve these as well. You start to give them the opportunity to focus, to use the expertise they have to reach their potential and produce results. So I don't care what motivational model you look at it as, just start to realize and talk about how ShipIt Day is not just a free day, it really actually hits on how people see motivation today. So those are just a handful of tips of how you can take back ShipIt Days to your organization to try to get started. We want to wrap up with 3 major takeaways we hope that you've gathered from this topic. And the first one is, big innovation comes in the form of small steps over time. And ShipIt Days is a small step Kaizen approach to reaching those big innovations.
The next one is that you need to make ShipIt Day yours to achieve your goals. You will find ways to overcome those pitfalls and implement this in your organization in a way that really makes it shine.
And lastly, start now and tweak forever. It's not about getting ShipIt Days right, it's about continuous improvement and taking those steps. So we'll end with the remainder of that Atlassian video, which shows how they end their ShipIt Days.
It's really fun when you get up there and you present and people really appreciate it. You're like, oh, that was really cool, you know, a sense of like recognition. And then when you see other people who are like amazing stuff gets happening, you just feel like you work for the most incredible place in the world.
I think we had about 300 entries for ShipIt 30, so it's a very large number of teams.
When you look back over the past 10 years, the number of things that started as a ShipIt project and kind of blossomed into a full-blown project is a countless example of that.
ShipIt exists in perpetuity. What we find is that the end of one ShipIt in our presentations is the start of the next one as people start creating, encompassing their ideas and creating their teams and thinking about what they want to do next quarter. You wouldn't go to you watching else.
I mean, winning at ShipIt is everybody wins.
Thank you all for joining us, for bringing Ingenuity back to engineering, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your conference.
We have about 10 minutes for Q&A if anybody has any questions. Yeah, Jason.
So, I am the sole developer at the company that I work for. How would you incorporate that? Like, we're getting, because on one side of me is tech services, they take tech calls. On the other side is the sales team, so they're taking calls. How would you convince the CEO and management that some people should be able to get time off to partake in this, and if it's all focused at engineering, how do you think that would be managed? Like give a couple people, have a couple people come on and work on a project with me for a day every 2 weeks, a couple different people do it every 2 weeks, and give everybody a different opportunity? Or...
That'd be a cool idea. You could also, we're all about starting small, so you could start with one day, just do a hackathon, and then you'd have some time to tee up ideas and find ways that people could work together on that, and you'd have time to convince management that it's worthwhile and all that. That could be one way to start.
I like that idea. I mean, how you can do it is going to be dependent on your organization. Right? But like the sharpen your saws example is from 7 Habits, and that book's on like every manager's shelf I've ever met. And so that says, slow down to speed up kind of thing. Right? And so even the folks you're talking about helping, there's probably ways they can do their job better. And so that might be one way to pitch it of like, we will achieve more productivity if we take the time to find better ways for their problems. But that's only one approach. It depends on your leadership and what your guys' biggest problems are and what ideas you might have. Yeah, I like that idea a lot, what you said.
Brian.
Did Huddle have anything like this when you joined, or did you try to introduce anything like this?
Oh man, you're asking the tough question. Yes, Huddle has an annual Code Fest, and they take 3 days every year and it really is freeform. You can post an idea to a centralized place, and people will talk to you about it, and they'll join teams, form teams, and work on it. And I got to see that in March. It was very successful. It's led to some really cool things. You get that flavor of people talking to each other all over the building, people sitting in different areas, like people learning about parts of the company they didn't even know. I would like to implement ShipIt Days on my team and try it out with them and see where we can go from there. I haven't done it yet, but I'll get back to you. Was there a question? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if you guys ever had an experience within a team where they didn't want to innovate, where bring up ShipIt Days, and you have a team that's like, I get the example of saying it's a free day, but the other side of now I'm not a creative person in that regard, and I feel under pressure that my company is going, make magic, make magic, make magic. You have, have you ever experienced that?
Yeah, all the time, and even people that have creative days will have non-creative days. And so usually the list of bugs on that wiki page generally is what people pick up because they're like, I'm not a creative person, I'm just going to fix this bug. And that's okay, it's something that's getting done. But usually over time, when there's another person on the team producing something really interesting, they might want to help them. Or you produce new ideas on that wiki page. They don't have to be creative themselves. That's a cool idea. I can go do that because I'm a technical person and I like to solve problems. You've already come up with what problem needs to be solved. So absolutely that'll happen, but from what I found over time, usually fairly quickly, these people will try to help someone else or pick up the more creative ideas that other people have that don't have time for things.
Yeah, we definitely saw that. One thing, I'm lucky as a Scrum Master, I get to put some time towards helping encouraging people to say, I might know what their side project is, and I would say, can you take something from that into what you could build in a ShipIt Day? And if you have somebody to brainstorm with, that can cut out some of that writer's block of not feeling creative or not knowing what to work on.
Anything else? All right.
Thank you, everyone. All right. Oh.
How's the software driving harvest this year?
It's going well. The weather's been really helpful. All right, thanks everyone.
Thanks everyone.